Welcome. I'm Sebastian Mahfood, and you're listening to WCAT Radio, the on-air wing of En Route Books and Media, bringing you the dulcet sounds of Catholic wisdom.
Well, a good Monday afternoon to you. You're listening to Carolina Catholic Radio Charlotte on AM 1270. Also streaming live at carolinacatholicradio.org and on the Carolina Catholic Radio app. And you're tuned in for Faith and Sport, coming to you live every Monday afternoon at this time from 2 to 3. I'm producer and co-host Chris, and your host for Faith and Sport, as always, the incomparable Dr. John Acquaviva. Yeah, listen to those fans go.
I think they get louder every week. Folks, welcome to the show. However, wherever you're joining us from, Dr. John Acquaviva, exercise scientist at Wingate University, and of course, the host of this great show, Faith and Sport, where we apply our Catholic faith to all aspects of sport. Chris, football, right? They're talking about even not having the draft. Yeah. There's no baseball.
I know.
There's no golf. There's no basketball. There's no hockey. But is there Faith and Sport each and every Monday?
That's right.
Do we play it each and every day if they can't hear it live here on Mondays from 2 to 3?
That's right.
I know. Both those last questions were in the affirmative. All those other questions in the negative. Faith and Sport live, baby. We're coming at you virus-free. Here's what we're going to do today, folks. We got the hit and miss with Carlos. He is on the line. He's going to join us in just 1 minute. We got weekend headlines. Our guest today in the second half of the show is Rob Egan. He's the general manager of the Charlotte Knights. In fact, I'm sure Rob's sitting around going, man, when we can start our season? In fact, they're set to start, I think, this week. We'll ask Rob that and other stuff, so stay tuned for that. And then toward the latter part of the show, in fact, just the last few minutes, as always, we're going to do the quick Q&A with Dr. A. Folks, we're going to talk to Carlos Herrera about our hit and miss, as we always do. But there's a couple other things I want to talk to him about, including the history, or at least partial history, of uniform number compensations in major leagues. In other words, when somebody gets, traded to a team and somebody has their number that they've had for years, maybe even a decade or so, we're going to talk about what they did. So stay tuned for that within our conversation to Carlos. I think he's on the line right now.
Yes, he is. He's ready and raring to go.
He is. Let's bring him on right now. Carlos Herrera. He's a certified soccer coach up in the D.C. area and a former youth minister. In fact, as my days as a youth minister, that's how we met. Carlos, welcome back to the show, buddy.
Very happy to be back.
This is great, brother. Hey, listen, I wanted to ask you, yesterday was week 2 that we did Mass, that we participated in Mass via a live stream from our parish. Have you guys done that yet?
We haven't personally as a family, but the parish just got their live stream up and running.
Got it.
Midweek. My family was doing it. My greater family was all doing it. We happened to drive over there, and they're in the middle of online Mass, but we haven't been able to do it yet.
Got it.
With our 4-year-old bouncing around.
Oh yeah, no.
Our 2-year-old.
I was going to say, did he have a couple birthdays just since last weekend?
Coronavirus take him out.
That's right. That chrono will get you, buddy. That chrono will get you. All right, buddy. Let's get right into it. Hit or miss in the world of sport. Other than the fact that we really have no sports to talk about, but the great thing is it wasn't hard for me to come up with my hit or miss. How about you? Did you come up with one?
Yes, I have a hit as well.
Let's hear it.
Basically, is virtual instruction.
Let's hear it.
Basically, the SEC for collegiate football and the Big 12 all have allowed virtual instruction, video conferencing for their football programs. And it really, this in particular extends to everybody, right? Like
yep.
you and I were just talking about, Mass online, right?
That's right.
People are doing now happy hours online, right? They're using the program Zoom. People,
That's right.
provide their own bottles. They dress up. And they're doing this online teaching. I know that you're doing that as well. But
of course.
We had never thought that we would get to a place where, we would be doing instruction. But in the collegiate football, as I'm sure on a lot of the professionals as well, you're able to have meetings, go over playbooks, do some instruction.
Yep.
Up to 2 hours.
Yep.
I think it's up to 2 hours per week. And you can review film, but you can't instruct like training and working out. You can give recommendations of what to do, but you can't have any supervision.
Interesting.
So, certainly you can have multiple people all in one place doing any kind of working out. But they don't, which is odd. They don't want you supervising workouts, which I'm not sure why that would be an issue as well.
Huh.
So.
No, okay, yeah, that is interesting. Folks, we're talking to Carlos Herrera about our hit and miss of the week. You're listening to Faith and Sport, where we merge sport and virtue. Thank you for joining us today here on the Carolina Catholic Radio Network. Yeah, I know there are a limited number of hours when you're out of season in college sports. And this is I think it's especially overseen, and this is a special concern of the NCAA for football and basketball. And what you're talking about primarily is football, right? And their preparation, because
this would be football, yeah.
And they don't have their spring practice, they don't have their spring game, and so forth, which is not only something that each team does every year, but the big teams. This is a thing, right? It's the games on.
Oh yeah.
The games on ESPN, and you can watch it YouTube the next day. I mean, literally, if you went to the YouTube and put in Alabama 2019, so last year, their maroon and white game, you could see the whole game. And, of course, it's just an inter-squad scrimmage. But what you're saying is there's some instruction that is supplied by the university or the coaching staff, but it can't be. Well, so what are the rules there?
So the rules are, obviously, it's a limited amount of time. It looks like just 2 hours a week, which isn't much. I mean, usually out of season, you do have quite a bit of gathering and going over playbook, a lot of health and conditioning, strength and conditioning that's being done. So what you're in this situation is just people are staying connected, right?
Yeah.
I think one of the things that is difficult right now in Maryland, we just got notified here. So I live in D.C. A lot of our staff that works in my company are from Maryland or Virginia or D.C., but Maryland just issued a stay in place. So basically, you can go out for a run, and you go out for a bike ride, and go out for a walk, and do your dog and get groceries, but you cannot go out for other reasons, any social reasons, and non-essential work. So, I think it's a new reality that we're living in in the next, 30, 60, 90 days.
Right.
And so this becomes a way to connect and give an opportunity to bridge that sort of loneliness gap, and also a loss of, I think, some specialization or, expertise in a particular field that you might be working on.
That's right. No, this is a good thing because you touched on it, actually. Like people, people are doing all kinds of stuff via Zoom and via these software programs that allow people to gather in. What was the one you named? I know Skype, but
Zoom, Skype.
What's another one that people can use? Right now, people are yelling at their
FaceTime.
Yeah, FaceTime. That's right. And people are doing everything from obviously workouts to some form of practice. And high schoolers are probably doing this. College is certainly doing this. You can bet that the strength and conditioning coaches for all of the major sports now are talking via these devices, via these apps, to communicate with their players, with the players of those teams, to help them keep in shape. But the biggest thing, if you ask me, keeping in shape, especially if you're a college and certainly a professional player, Carlos, you'd probably agree with me on this as well. They need some instruction for sure. That's why there's a strength and conditioning coach. That's why there are these coaches at all levels, even at the professional level. But I would say the main thing is to allow them to feel connected, and also
absolutely 100%.
Think about it.
I don't think you can minimize that. I think that's why all these type of happy hour, connections are happening. Mass is happening. We are a social people.
That's right.
And we need human interaction like that.
That's right. Yeah, in fact, I was watching, I stay home on Mondays and Fridays to help my wife, Alicia, with our 4 kids, 3 of them who have online learning anywhere between like 2 and 4 hours each day. And then on Tuesday through Thursday, I go into Wingate University and I do my online teaching there. But on Mondays and Fridays, I help. And it's interesting to watch this process. And I was watching little, Abigail, who's 7, and Luke, who's 8. And they had online learning through Zoom, and all these little kids. You see the face of all these little kids, and some of them are eating Cheerios, and other ones are, picking dust bunnies off of the computer and stuff. It's hard for them to stay engaged. But I can tell by the look on their faces that this is a way for them to. It's like normalcy to them, right? This is their new normal. But also, not only do they have their family and their brothers and sisters and their mom and dad and Alicia and I, but also they stay connected through their school, and I think this is as normal as things can get. And certainly, culture and life is much different with this virus around today with technology than it would be vastly different just 20 years ago.
I mean, think about when we watched Star Trek, if you remember. They would be on the ship,
yep.
And they would, through whatever they used, connect with Earth, right? And
yep.
classes and their parents and their kids or whatever. And you think, God, that's so odd, but that's essentially kind of what we're doing. I mean, we're going
right.
from your classroom of kids,
yep.
parents and grandparents. Everything now is, you have to do it this way.
Yep, yep. One of the things about online learning that I'm nervous about, because students will tell you this, other teachers, professors will tell you that this is a big concern, is not the teaching and not the learning aspect, but is the confirming everybody that is taking the online test is being, the academic integrity is in place. And there's
that was a nice way to say it.
Yeah. Yeah. Needless to say, I have a lot of practice in that because we practice that at this and every university. It's a big issue, right? People cheat all the time. There's plagiarism. They cheat on tests, and there's all kinds of creative ways to do it now with all this technology. But that's one of the things that I'm nervous about. But I also am appreciative of the fact that we still stay connected to all these guys. And as you talked about, the human person is a very social being, and that's one of the great things about technology. I sometimes swear, in fact, I often swear technology because it's drawn in a lot of kind of negatives within our society and has, I think, disconnected us instead of connected us. But I think this is a really good example of how technology brings us together, and it's in a genuinely good way, I think, right now.
I mean, for the listeners, you and I have been talking by phone. We're in 2 different cities.
Yep.
You suggested several weeks ago, let's connect via Skype. And
yep.
you yourself, and I too, the moment we were able to see each other
That's
in
right.
real time,
That's right.
it made a difference.
Yep.
It actually was, I don't know, a much deeper level.
That's right.
You can connect with eyes, mannerisms, facial expressions, and it was so much better than just doing it over the phone.
That's right. I'm glad you brought that up because you and I were talking about, say, 3 months ago, we were talking about how can you and I do this to where it's a little more, not just realistic, but it's a little more natural. It's like almost you being in the studio.
Connected,
yeah, and not only are we connected, through this kind of means of communication, but being able to see each other makes all the difference in the world. That's a great point. And that's one of the reasons why we followed through with this from our discussion of 3 months ago. I was like, how can we do this, more regularly? And it was just simply Skype. And as Chris mentioned, the connection is more solid too. So
yes,
all
absolutely.
Good stuff. All right, so let's move on to my hit. Folks, before I do that, you're listening to Faith in Sport, where we apply our Catholic faith to all aspects of sports. So whether you're a player, an athlete, a referee, a parent of those folks, administrator, however you're involved in sport, this is the show for you. This is where we weave character, morality, and ethics into our everyday conversation of sport. So right now we're talking to Carlos Herrera, former youth minister from the D.C. area, and he already gave us his hit. And then my hit has to do with this wonderful way that these 2 particular quarterbacks in the NFL have applied the gospel. And first, let me read the gospel, and then I'll talk specifically about how Drew Brees, the quarterback of the New Orleans Saints, and Matthew Stafford, the quarterback of my beloved Detroit Lions, have applied this scripture verse from the Bible. And it's Luke 12:8, and it just simply says this: "To whom much is given, much will be required." And there's, of course, a lot of interpretations of this. One would just simply be for, in other words, a certain intellect and a certain opportunity to hear the gospel. A lot would be required of them. But often people put this in the forms of finances. And this is how I'm going to apply this. To whom much is given, much will be required. And let me talk about what each of these quarterbacks have done. Matthew Stafford and his wife, Kelly, have donated $100,000 to specific restaurants, and in particular to help provide food to those in need because of the coronavirus pandemic. And in particular, it's going to deliver food to Forgotten Harvest, which delivers food to local charities, to the public school system, and who provides meals to the students impacted by this. And also, some of these meals are going to go to the people on the front lines, the healthcare workers. $100,000, certainly a lot of money, but look what Drew Brees did. Him and his wife have donated $5 million to the state of Louisiana, and I don't think they have said specifically and exactly, I should say, how this money is going to be used, but to quote it, it said, he said, Drew Brees, "It hurts my heart to a great degree to what all Americans are going through, but especially the state of Louisiana." And of course, because he sees them on a daily basis, just makes sense to give to his home state. He's not from the state of Louisiana, but he's been playing for the Saints for almost 20 years now, and he sees it on a daily basis. And he said, when you think about how small businesses are the lifeblood of our state, and obviously the hospitality industry especially, which has been so hard hit by this whole thing, this is a way that he can help those folks. And again, specifics, like unlike what I read about Stafford, him and his wife giving, I don't think there's any details, or at least I didn't read any details. But boy, between the two of them, over $5 million. And a lot of people would say this, and I know it's natural to think this, Carlos, as you heard those stats. Drew Brees has been playing in the NFL for 20 years, Matthew Stafford for 12. Both of those guys are multimillionaires, right?
Yes.
But
for sure.
But the thing is that, yes, $5 million is probably just a small percentage of how much money Drew Brees has. Here's the difference. How much have we given? Even if we were to give, say, $100 or $200, that would be probably the same percentage of our take-home income as it is to those guys. The point is those guys did it. There's millions of millionaires who won't give a dime to this effort. And I think this is a hit. I think this is worth discussing. And I think this is worth asking God to bless those two people, because there's a whole lot of people that make a whole lot of money that don't give anything. In fact, books will tell you, and people who interview, authors who interview millionaires, one of the common threads that you will hear from rich people about their money is, one of the reasons I'm rich is I don't give my money away. And I'll go back to that Bible verse from Luke, to whom much is given, much will be required. So God bless Drew Brees, God bless Matthew Stafford, and both of those guys' wives for agreeing to make big donations to people that are in need in this situation. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, and John, I would say, I think the point that you mentioned, how, if you looked at us, what are we doing? Because probably every single listener here, we've been given much, and compared to whom, right? Yes, the millionaires, and there may be millionaires, billionaires that don't, but there's how many people have extra money and we don't use it in a way to benefit others. And this is a great opportunity, and I'm glad they're making it public. There are a lot of players that'll give, and they'll do it so that they don't, raise awareness. They don't want to be known for doing that. But, it's good for those that do it so that it reminds us, we can do the same.
That's right. Folks, you're listening to Carolina Catholic Radio Network. This is Faith and Sport, where we merge sport and virtue. We're doing our hit and miss with Carlos Herrera. Carlos, one of the things that comes to mind with this whole giving is, in fact, this is something that has motivated me to give, not necessarily because of what Drew Brees and Matthew Stafford have done in making big donations to the people in their cities. But I thought about this beforehand when about a week ago it was said not only that each American taxpayer would get a check for a certain amount of money depending on your two things primarily: how many kids you have, but primarily it's based on how much money you make.
Yep.
And I am sure that Alicia will agree, my wife, when we get this check, a portion of it, at least a percentage of it, will go to somebody that's in need. And we've often done this. And I mean this with all sincerity, folks, to our listeners, to Carlos, my friend, to anybody in earshot of this, that it is not a way of tooting the horn by me saying this. But I'm saying this to make myself accountable to it, but also to motivate others to do the same. And we have a job. Both Alicia and I continue to work. She's the marriage prep coordinator for the Diocese of Charlotte. I, of course, continue online teaching, so I'll still get a paycheck throughout this. In fact, if anything, my job is more secure now because of online learning. More people will go to school when the economy is bad. Now, in this short-term thing, I don't know if we're going to see a bump in enrollment at our and other universities, but I just wanted to mention that because I want to encourage others to do the same. So
yeah, and that's a great way of doing it. And there are people that have been posting. We certainly, my family doesn't need that $1,200, and it's a great way. And I'm glad you mentioned it because that is another way. Either some of it, all of it, or a portion of it. It's just we've been given so much,
That's right.
people in this country, and we compare ourselves to maybe the Drew Breeses and the Matthew Staffords of how we don't compare to what they have. But everywhere along the spectrum, if you look at what we've been given, we've all been given a lot.
Okay, so amen, brother, absolutely. Sorry, because I wanted to jump to our next thing before time ran out on us, but well said, and I thought the segment was particularly good. But before you go, buddy, I'm going to turn this to a very random thing in the world of sport, but I thought it was I found this so interesting. Okay, so Carlos, that Tom Brady, of course, has shifted teams for the first time in 20 years. He's gone from the Pats for almost 2 decades. Now he's going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, one of the big things, and I shouldn't say the big things, but one of the side stories of this, especially after the whole thing about the shock of him, switching from one team to the other, once that calmed down, they started talking about specifics, like how good would the Bucs be and so forth. But one of the side stories that came out on this was, what number will he wear? Right? Because, no, I mean this, because he's worn number 12 his whole career, 2 decades with the Patriots. But one of the really good players, in fact, one of their star wide receivers, Chris Godwin, wears number 12 as well. And the thought is that somehow, some way, Tom Brady's going to end up with this number. All right? So Major League Baseball jumped on this. Clearly, they don't state it in the story, but clearly this what motivated this writer to say this. The name of this article is, "Do you want my uniform number? Then send my kid to college," right? And it says the best trades in baseball for a uniform number. So I'm going to mention a couple of these. Okay, so in 1993, Ricky Henderson, the great Hall of Fame base stealer and leadoff batter, went to the Blue Jays, and he wanted his number 24, and a player by the name of Turner Ward was wearing it. So Ricky Henderson paid him $25,000 to wear it for 3 months.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? And then 4 years prior to that, Henderson secured his number 24 in a cheaper, more personal transaction. After the Yankees traded him to Oakland in the middle of the 1989 season, Henderson had to negotiate with catcher Ron Hassey for his number. All Henderson had to do was sub in for Hassey at an autograph session. Sure beats 25 grand, right? So it says Rolex watches are a popular stand-in for straight cash in these negotiations. Roger Clemens, the great former Toronto Blue Jay, but primarily Red Sox, signed with the Blue Jays in 1997, and he gave first baseman Carlos Delgado a Rolex watch plus $15,000 for his number 21. Isn't this unbelievable? Listen to this.
Yes, I've heard they do it in all NFL teams a lot, but I'm sure they do it in other sports. People will pay for numbers. I've heard $20,000 one of the Redskins to get one of the numbers.
Oh, yeah.
There's all sorts of transactions. I think it's fun and games on some level, and I'm sure some people take it far more seriously than others.
Oh, yeah, they do. And there's no question that these guys, in fact, we know this, not that baseball players are the only ones to do this. This is just a story about baseball players who did do it. But it's often said the most superstitious players in any sport at any level are professional baseball players, right? There's a level of superstition. So just a couple more to share with everybody. Not everyone is a watch guy. Instead of a watch, outfielder Brian Jordan, by the way, who played both NFL and Major League Baseball, so he had money to do this for sure, bought a $40,000 motorcycle for then Atlanta Braves third base coach Freddie Gonzalez. By the way, is Freddie Gonzalez the manager of our Nats? Does that sound... No. Who's the manager of the Nats right now?
You would have to ask.
I know. Sorry about that. We're not in baseball season. Anyway, he gave him $40,000 or a $40,000 motorcycle just to get a number. Unbelievable. I'll share one more with you. Back in 2003, Tom Glavine, thinking was similar to another player, in order to get number 47 from Joe McEwing from the Mets, he also did something for his teammate's kid. Instead of just giving money to the player's family, Tom Glavine, financed the construction of a baby nursery in McEwen's home.
Hey, this is where the Luke says passage works. To much who is given, much is expected.
Absolutely.
So if you made a lot, you want a number, it's definitely going to cost you.
No, there's no question about it. Yeah, like, in other words, it's okay to ask for that jersey. Just ask for something. Just give them something, in a fair trade. And these guys are professionals, and so $10 isn't going to do. I am surprised that that one catcher just goes sit in for an autograph. It shows how much that guy disliked giving autographs.
That's great. That was probably in jest.
That's right. It probably was. Well, listen, buddy, that's all we have time for, the hit and miss. Listen, I know you're in the middle of a big, busy work day, but listen, continue to enjoy those non-busy streets in D.C. Carlos, I saw a little clip of Constitution Avenue at rush hour. There was nobody out. There was nobody in the street.
It couldn't be more beautiful. I love it. God has been very good to us, and our company is considered an essential business. So we're all working, and it's like working out in Idaho somewhere where there's no traffic.
I know. Carlos, when was the last time anybody thought that traffic in Washington, D.C. could be compared to anywhere in Idaho?
Probably 9/11.
I tell you what, buddy, I agree with you. Today, when I got in the car and I rolled down the windows, I thought to myself, this is going to be one of the best commutes I'll have in a year, because it was so beautiful, right? It's around 72 degrees outside, slightly breezy, the sun is shining, and the commute was piece o' cake. So listen, buddy, enjoy it. Stay safe, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks for having me on, Dr. Acquaviva.
You got it, buddy. There you go. Carlos Herrera with our hit and miss. Certified soccer coach up there in Washington, D.C., former youth minister, longtime good friend of mine. So there you go with our hit and miss. Chris, let's do this, buddy. We got a couple minutes before our break. We're going to have Rob Egan on right after our break, the general manager of the Charlotte Knights. But let's do our weekend headlines.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat. The human drama of athletic competition.
It's time for Weekend Headlines with Dr. John Acquaviva on Faith and Sport.
I have to admit, Chris, this was the toughest list to actually make. Because I'm looking at all these news wires, right? And people are like, well, the wind was 10 miles an hour at Fenway Park yesterday. The sun was shining at Yankee. I mean, what are they reporting on? There's almost nothing reported. But I'll share a couple things with you folks. NCAA basketball, it's Final Four time. In other words, if the tournament would have gone on as planned, the Final Four would have been made after this weekend. A week from tonight would be the final game. But CBS Sports Radio is doing something to keep the tournament alive. And what they did over the weekend is they're airing great March Madness games. And I have to admit, some of these games are 20 years old. Chris, and I was listening to them like they were live. And I was like, get the ball. Go, the shot me. They did such a great job. I thought that's a really neat thing. And let's face it, folks. even though you can't listen to and watch sports live, the next best thing is to watch or listen to great sporting events that have already occurred. Because some of these games, I was like, I don't remember who won this game. So that's what's going on in NCAA basketball. So the virtual Final Four is going to be this Saturday. The PGA, we reported last week that golf, along with horse racing, were the only two longtime sports still going. Well, not now, buddy. Remember we talked about that? They have these mini tours, small field, 3-day tours have been halted, at least for now. So, no more of these mini PGA golf tours.
Yeah, speaking of that, over the weekend, I saw something funny on, it was a Twitter video that O.J. Simpson put up. He said, I just hope that they don't close down the golf courses because I enjoy playing golf every day, and if I can't get out of the house and play golf, I'll just go crazy. Yeah, so they don't need to close down the golf courses.
And Chris, the last thing we want is for OJ to go crazy.
Yeah,
we don't need that in our society. Everybody knows where I'd be headed down there if I talked more about that. In the NFL, it seems like all the talk is about the upcoming draft, especially now that the Tom Brady story has been quieted. But an offshoot of this, or side note to this. This truly baffles me that a lot of these talking heads are knocking the fact that they may go through with this. In other words, if the draft goes through, people are seeing this as kind of like, disrespect for the seriousness of the coronavirus. I don't think if people, like let's say me, you, and 3 or 4 other guys are the Carolina Panthers draft team, right? We work with the general manager and we're the guys. Why couldn't we do this from home?
Yeah.
Why couldn't with Zoom, you could have 25 people. You could have probably 50 people. I don't know what the limit is, but you and I could talk in between picks. We would be in separate spaces like you and I are right now. There's a grass partition here. There's a cloak of alcohol wipes between you.
Yeah.
Right? But you and I could still do that, and then there could be several other people doing that. And just because they're moving ahead with the idea of, like, let's still have the draft.
That's right.
Everything could be virtual. Rather than the guy walking on stage, he could call in and go, hey, I want to thank everybody from the Cleveland Browns for drafting me. They could still do it. It's not going to be the same thing, but what's wrong with doing that?
Yeah.
I don't see any problem with that.
No.
I thought it was really interesting that these people, you can't do this, you can't move forward with the draft, you're just disrespecting the whole world by, and I just go, I don't know what you're talking about. It's like going back to what Carlos and I were talking about. There's ways around all this stuff.
Yeah.
If people can have happy hour, Chris, virtual happy hour, we can have a virtual draft. Well, it's actually a real draft, but they're virtually together. Right? Anyway, so there you have it, folks. Sports headlines that may or may not change your life.
That's right.
All right, so let's do this, Chris. Let's go to break. And, folks, I want you to stay tuned because Rob Egan's coming up. He's the general manager of the Charlotte Knights, and he's going to talk to us about what they've been doing, what their plan is moving forward, and so forth. So stay tuned here for more Faith and Sport on Carolina Catholic Radio.
That's right. And also, we want to mention to you that if you happen to miss any of Faith and Sport, you can catch an encore presentation of Faith and Sport throughout the week on Carolina Catholic Radio, AM 1270. Also streaming at carolinacatholicradio.org and on the Carolina Catholic Radio app. You can go to the app or the website and click on the EWTN Carolina Catholic Radio Program Guide tab, and it will show you all the encore presentation times throughout the week that you can catch an encore presentation of Faith and Sport right here on Carolina Catholic Radio. And we've got more Faith and Sport live coming up right after this break.
AM 1270 Catholic Radio Charlotte. Listen live anytime, anywhere on the new Carolina Catholic Radio mobile app.
Hello, Carolina Catholics. This is Dr. Gregory Popchak from EWTN's More to Life. Our faith is God's greatest gift to us and a priceless treasure. But faith doesn't spare us from the challenges of life. I know from over 20 years of practice that most families face one or more serious issues: addiction, anxiety, depression, marriage problems, divorce. If you're struggling with these or similar issues, there's hope. The Catholic counselors at my Pastoral Solutions Institute are here to help. Visit us today at CatholicCounselors.com or call 866-724-1196 and let your journey to healing begin. That's 866-724-1196 or visit us at CatholicCounselors.com. This is Dr. Greg Popchak with EWTN's More to Life here on the Carolina Catholic Radio Network.
We are now at the halfway point of the Carolina Catholic Radio flagship campaign. Our current pledge total is $14,518. That's 58% of our $25,000 goal to help secure the future of local Catholic radio by moving forward with the purchase of our flagship station, AM 1270 Catholic Radio Charlotte. Special thanks to the D3 Foundation and St. Anne's Parish for their most generous donations. Please make your tax-deductible gift on the Donate tab of our website, which is carolinacatholicradio.org, or on our mobile app at Carolina Catholic Radio. On behalf of our over 50 volunteer leaders, we are counting on you to finish strong. Catch the spirit. Join us and become part of this exciting contemporary local evangelization effort. We're grateful for your generosity and your prayerful support. God bless you.
Hi, I'm Rick Rotundi, founder of Cenacle TV. My new series, Messiah, takes viewers on an epic journey from ancient Egypt to the Mount of Sacrifice to the fall of Rome. Hosted by Leonardo de Philippis, featuring 5 amazingly insightful experts and filmed at nearly 30 locations, Messiah is an experience you won't soon forget. In this year, when the Church invites us to engage the Bible more deeply, put Messiah on your viewing list. Pick up the Messiah DVD at your favorite reseller, or ask for my book, Messiah, Discover the One the Prophets Foretold. You can learn more about Messiah and watch the first episode free at See Messiah, that's SEE Messiah.com. I'm Rick Rotundi with Cenacle TV, here on the Carolina Catholic Radio Network.
And we are back here on Faith and Sport on the Carolina Catholic Radio Network, AM 1270 Charlotte. Also streaming live at carolinacatholicradio.org and the Carolina Catholic Radio app. And now let's kick it back to our host, Dr. John Acquaviva.
Hey folks, welcome back to the show, Faith and Sport, where we apply our Catholic faith to all aspects of sport. Now, before we get to Rob Egan, Chris, and I know I do this every once in a while, and I try to do this weekly, but I want to offer you a sincere note of gratitude. You come in here each and every week, and you do such a great job, and you get the show to me on, via rebroadcast on a tape, and I send it out to the guests and so forth. So thank you for everything you do for me. Thank you for everything you do for the show and for Carolina Catholic Radio.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to do it. I have a lot of fun doing this show with you, and I appreciate you letting me be producer and co-host of the show. It's a lot of fun.
It's good to have you, brother. And one of the things I want to mention to the audience is that it's through you that we bring daily mass, right? It's not only it's every day of the week now we bring daily mass, right?
Right.
And mass is held at St. Patrick's Cathedral. Where's mass?
Right now it's St. Mark's.
Got it.
Of Huntersville.
That's right.
Yes, at 1 o'clock every afternoon.
And when was it aired yesterday? When was Sunday Mass aired?
1 o'clock.
Oh, yeah, 1 o'clock. Got it. So, and again today at 1 o'clock it was, and
That's
so forth.
That's
there
right.
You go. Well, thank you for doing that, buddy.
I'm glad to do it, and want to thank. Also, want to send out a big thank you to Mr. David Papandrea, who makes this all possible.
Yep. You know what's funny is it's Papandrea or Papandrea, and when I first met him, I said, "Which do you prefer? How do you?" And he goes, "Either." But I think I mentioned to him right there. I go, "There's only one way to pronounce my name. It's Acquaviva.
Yep.
No, it's not Acquaviva." But God bless Dave. He's like Papandrea, Papandrea. It doesn't matter. So it's all good stuff. Well, thank you, and I agree. Big thank you to he's great to work with and work for our chairman and president, David Papandrea. In fact, he is heading this huge thing to fund the station for the next couple months and for the next year. So, folks, this is 100%. This is true, isn't it, Chris?
That's
it's 100% listener supported.
That's right.
So we're asking you, folks, if you've not donated to the cause yet, to deeply consider this. Especially if you continue to work and you have funds coming in, and you like listening to this show, you like listening to this radio station, please consider Dave's plea to fund Carolina Catholic Radio.
That's right, so we can keep Carolina Catholic Radio on the air.
There you go, brother. All right, so let's do this. I've been talking about Rob Egan for the last few minutes. In fact, I mentioned him in the beginning of the hour. He is the general manager of the Charlotte Knights. He's also a parishioner at St. Luke's in Min Hill. In fact, how we met was through mutual friends when we were both parishioners at St. Matthew Catholic Church. I've since left and I switched over to Our Lady of Grace, and him and his family, Rob and him and his family, have switched over to St. Luke's. But the biggest thing, of course, is he's a big Michigan fan. So that's one of the reasons I love this guy, Rob Egan.
Yeah, there's not many of you guys around.
Rob Egan, welcome to the show.
Oh, there's plenty of us around. Go Blue.
Absolutely. One of the greatest things, Rob, is my son is naturally taking to the gold or the maize M and gold blue. And if he even sees me watching replay of Michigan basketball, he runs to the computer and he goes, "Dad, is this Michigan?" And I'm like, "I've done something right, brother," because he really likes the maize and blue. Do your kids like it?
Yeah, I can share a similar case. My wife and I are both from Michigan originally, so that's how I came to be a Michigan fan, naturally.
That's right.
And they have not been in Michigan their whole lives, basically. Now, we still have family members there, our parents and so forth, but they've been in Pennsylvania for most of their lives before moving down here to Charlotte about 3 years ago. So they have taken to my sports teams, fortunately or unfortunately,
That's
and
right.
I say unfortunately in the case of the Detroit Lions.
And the Tigers. And Rob, this is, you and I know we've talked about this. Thank God, and I mean this, for Michigan basketball and Michigan football, because, I mean, how many teams can mention and be in truth in saying the following? The Red Wings and the Tigers had the worst record in their sport in the last year.
Yes.
I know, but listen, brother, I did not have you on the show to go down that but no, I'm very hopeful for the future, especially since the Red Wings have Steve Yzerman. I have no issue, and I have no doubt that they're going to be back on top within the next 5 years.
Yeah, they're making the moves they need to. I think the Ilitch family, it'll be interesting to see if they hang on to the Tigers. But I think with both the Red Wings and the Tigers, they have always had a good plan. The Red Wings, they never added free agents until it was time.
That's right.
Until they were close to winning, and then they won, obviously, those Stanley Cups, four of them in my lifetime, which has been great.
This is awesome.
And the Tigers, they obviously had some runs there under Jim Leland and made a couple of World Series and didn't quite get over the hump, but they've been a lot of fun to watch, save for these past few years, and they're starting to rebuild. So
That's right.
It happens.
And, brother, the Tigers are undefeated so far this year.
They are. All of baseball is undefeated right now.
That's right. Okay, so before we get into discussion about the Charlotte Knights, paint the picture. Do you go to the stadium to work? Do you stay home? Do you do a little bit of both like I do? What's your work situation like?
Yes, both. I've been going in more often than not. However, I've taken a day to the last couple of weeks and just worked exclusively from home. And today is one of those days starting this week because of the stay-at-home order in Mecklenburg County that started last week, and now the stay-at-home order that we're going to have coming up here this evening in all of the states. So I'll probably be working more from home than at the ballpark, as we've had the ballpark closed to the general public for over 2 weeks now, John, and we've really told our employees at this point, hey, just stay away. We only really want folks that have to maintain the building to be there. And my boss and I will go in and check in periodically, as it's our jobs to do that as leadership, but we don't want the rest of our staff in there. We want them to do what's right, what's recommended, and hopefully we get through this crisis sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. Folks, we're talking to Rob Egan, the general manager of our Charlotte Knights AAA team. They play right downtown in BB&T Ballpark. This is, I know that every sports town, every minor league town probably says, you got to go check out a game. But this is absolutely, like, Rob, it's so easy, isn't it? Like, if you're talking to somebody, say, at church, or you're talking to one of your neighbors, and they're like, hey, Rob, what do you do? And you mention it to them, at some point you probably encourage them to become a fan of some sort. Like, hey, take your son down to, but it is truly a great experience. And I think you could argue, even though I've only been in a handful of stadiums, both professional and minor league, or major league and minor league, but is there any better stadium in the world than this BB&T Ballpark? It's awesome.
It really is. So we were so fortunate to have the facility that we have. it took a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and legal wrangling and so forth over a course of about a decade. And Dan Rakowski, our COO, and our owner, Don Beaver, and his co-owners, Bill and Sharon Allen, really fought hard and believed in the project and got the building built starting in 2013 with the groundbreaking, and we opened it in 2014. And, the results speak for themselves. It's a beautiful, beautiful ballpark. All of the details thought out very well by the ownership and management. I was not here until 2016, the third year in the new park, but wow, what a blessing it is, and to be able to see those views from your seats, and not only the baseball field, but the gorgeous skyline of uptown Charlotte. It's quite a gift, and it's been a lot of fun coming into this community and talking with people about it, because even if they haven't been to a game, the reputation is certainly out there that people have heard about how nice it is, and I've been meaning to get there is often the word if they haven't been there yet. And hard to believe, but we're already going into our 7th season in the new building.
That's amazing. I know, because I literally say, like, my brother, I took him down last year when he came with his son, and every time I even talk about it, I go, yeah, it's a brand new park, but actually that's not correct anymore, is it? It's been around for 7 years. But still, it acts as a brand new park, but that doesn't matter. It's beautiful. It's a great place to see a game. It's certainly a great date. It's a great family night. So we'll keep talking about this throughout our conversation, but yeah, once the season resumes, geez, come on down there. Folks, you're listening to Carolina Catholic Radio. This is Faith and Sport. I'm Dr. John Acquaviva. We're talking to Rob Egan, the general manager of the Charlotte Knights. Now, your title is GM, Rob, but your job description differs from a great deal from a major league GM. Is that correct?
That is correct. Even though we have the same title and name, it is a much different role. At the major league level, and when folks think about a general manager, they think about someone who's making the decisions for all of the players and coaching staff members and all of the baseball-related personnel decisions, and that is what a major league general manager does. As a minor league general manager, we're simply an affiliate of a major league club, meaning that the major league general manager and his farm director make the assignments of the players and coaches to our team and all the other minor league teams within the White Sox system. So we're the AAA affiliate of the Chicago White Sox. So in our case, as general manager of the Charlotte Knights, I'm more... my role is to oversee the operation of the ballpark, the operation of our staff, the facility, making sure the beer is cold, the food is warm, and that the folks have a great time at the ballpark. All of that happens on the field, let's just say nobody wants me to put a lineup out there, because I don't know if I'd know as well as the scouts and the general manager and the farm director would, for sure. But my job is to make sure that the fans enjoy themselves, that our players and coaches while in Charlotte have a good experience, and we help them wherever we can in terms of getting acclimated to the community and getting out into the community and giving back. But that's really the extent of it. I'm more of a liaison for the White Sox and really more concerned with the operation, sales, marketing, promotions, all those good things with the Charlotte Knights.
Yeah, that makes sense, and that was well stated. And my guess is you've said that once or twice before.
Yes, I get the question for sure, and it's still a little confusing because they think you have a role in the team that you field. Yep. You really don't. The only control we have on that is every once in a while, every 2 to 4 years, usually, sometimes longer. You would have some input as to who your major league affiliate would be. So in other words, if for whatever reason we ever wanted to look at another major league club as an affiliate, that would be something under our control, mine and Dan's and our owner would be the ultimate decision maker in that. But we have been with the White Sox for 22 years. I don't know that will change anytime soon as we continue to enjoy the relationship.
So just to be clear on your role, if shortstop is Joe Smith, and he's having a great year for the AAA Charlotte Knights, and the Chicago White Sox call and say, okay, we want to bring him up, you do not have, for lack of a better word, the power to say, no, you can't have him.
right?
No, we would love to hang on to a player like that if he's doing really well for us. Obviously, that's why they want him at the big league level. But as a White Sox employee, that's their prerogative, and they can pull him up. And even though it might be painful to lose him because we might lose a little pop in our lineup or in the field or something, that's the name of the game. And we genuinely are happy for those guys when they get called up to the major leagues, especially for the first time, because that's a dream come true.
Absolutely. So. Now, who makes the decision to resume night spring training, the season, and so forth? It's at the major league level, right? And everything bleeds down from there.
That's correct. Yeah. So we do dovetail our season, the minor league season, off of the major league season.
Yep.
We typically start 4 days to a week after they get started. So that's what we're hearing is whenever they feel like they can make the decision to get spring training going and then a start date for their regular season will probably be within a week of that we would start.
Rob, is it fair to even broach any idea if you had to guess, and I'm going to give my guess first, and you may know a whole lot more than me. You may go, John, your guess is just as good as mine, but I'm thinking August 1st is when all sports will resume. I think the football season will probably go off as scheduled. And I just think come August 1st, it's quite possible we have not only peaked with the virus, but it's on a great downslide. But I don't know. Do you have any, not that you know what's going to happen, but if you just, I don't know, from what little information we have about the virus and about the kind of longevity of it and so forth, do you have any insight on that?
Well, I'm by nature an optimistic person, and not saying that your view is not optimistic, but I'm one that I'm not going to give up on an optimistic date until I'm told otherwise. So the one thing that has me very encouraged is that people, by and large, do seem to be following the recommendations, dating back to 2 or 3 weeks ago when the president had the social distancing guidelines put out there, and now he's extended them through April 30th on down to the state and local level. I think most people who've been following this for the past 3-4 weeks do follow that.
Sure.
Do pay attention. Do take care of things that they're supposed to take care of. Will stay at home if they're asked to stay at home. There are obviously people that don't, but we hope that most people in doing this will flatten that curve as they talk about, and they'll be able to get back to normal, whatever that means, within a short amount of time. And then I do like what I'm seeing in terms of these treatments with the various drugs that we already have on the market. They've already been tested. They want to make sure they're safe, obviously, to give to people on a wide-scale basis. But if that changes the game a little bit and speeds that process up a little bit, so much the better. We've got to be safe about it. We've got to be wise about it, and I think we will be. But I'm still going to hang on to June 1st as a hopeful start date. I don't know that will happen, and certainly don't take it as gospel, so to speak, because I think there's just so much that we don't know yet.
Absolutely. Brother, what are you doing on Faith and Sport? You should be on the Nightly News with Lester Holt. I mean, you both, I love the way you switch from the GM role to, like a expert on virus protection and so forth. Hey, listen, brother.
Certainly no expert. I just, I look at these things with hope.
I
try to always live with hope.
No.
That's what we're told to do, right? As
Absolutely.
Catholic Christians, live in joyful hope, and hopefully we will get there soon.
Well stated, brother. Listen, I'm going to leave you with this story. You may know nothing about this, but since I switched over to Our Lady of Grace in Lancaster, South Carolina, just over the border, I started a men's group as a encouragement from another parishioner there, and he goes, John, why don't you come? And it's Saturday mornings, each and every Saturday morning. Of course, it's been suspended now, but at 6:30 in the morning, we always start out with either Mass or the Rosary, and then we are usually talking about a book or some part of the Scripture, and it changes from month to month and so forth. Anyway, one of the other members is a guy named Tim Clare, and his son is a minor league baseball player. And, he's a local guy, and his son, I think, went to High Point University, and then he got drafted, and he got drafted by the Orioles. And he told, I think it was before he got drafted, and he told his dad that one of his dreams was to not only play in BB&T ballpark, but was to hit a home run there, right? His name is Chris Clare, and he was playing, he went to A ball with the Orioles and then eventually the Bay Sox, which is AA, as you probably are familiar with. And then he got called up for a minute, which is, I think, the Norfolk Tides. Is this correct?
Yep, that's right.
In his first game, brother, he got called up to the Norfolk Tides was against the Charlotte Knights. And I think this was last year. It might be 2 years ago or last year. And guess what he did in his first at-bat against the Knights? He hit a home run.
Yep.
Do you know the story?
I remember it.
No, you don't.
I remember it.
You don't remember this.
It was 2 years ago, I believe, and I remember them saying, he's a area native, and so what a story, and there were several of his family and friends in the crowd that night. We could hear them when he hit the home run.
That's right.
Yeah.
And in fact, I want to say it was a 2 or 3 run homer, and his lifetime batting average at AAA is 1 for 2. So he's batting 500, brother. And
there you go.
And listen, you and him have something in common, I hope, in the next month. In fact, just earlier today, I emailed my friend Tim, and I said, can Chris be on the show? And I made a little wink, and I said, because I heard he's not doing much right now. But one of the reasons I said that is he did an interview recently, and he talked about not only his faith, but how important his Catholic faith is to him. So he'd be a great guest on this show. So I think it's so neat that you remember that. Listen, brother, and I'm going to put you on the spot here on the air. I'm hoping that right around the time that the Charlotte Knights actually start their season, either slightly before or slightly after, you can be back on the show to talk about the season.
I'd love it, John. It'd be great. It's been a lot of fun.
I appreciate it, Rob. You take care. And listen, thank you for appearing, and I'm going to ask our audience to pray for a successful upcoming season and that you and your family stay safe. Thank you, brother, for appearing on the show.
Thank you very much, John, and to you and yours as well, your lovely family. It was great getting to know you a little bit at St. Matt's, and all the best to all of you as well.
I appreciate it. You take care.
Thank you.
There we go. Rob Egan, the Charlotte Knights general manager. And as he talked about, it's not quite the same thing. Anybody knows the position of general manager at the major league level knows that he's making in trades, he's signing contracts and so forth. And Rob's job is just a little bit of that, and it's mostly just making sure your experience at the ballpark is great. Listen, we only got a couple minutes left, but I want to get to one question. Why don't you go to question number 2 in the quick Q&A with Dr. A, and then we'll sew up the show.
All right. The first question, or question number 2, actually is ESPN's Kirk Herbstreit stated over the weekend that he expects the NFL and CFB to be canceled. Do you agree with this?
Yeah, and CFB, of course, college football, right? I thought this was amazing. He said this. He just said this over the weekend. I'm really confused that he said this because you're talking about this year's Super Bowl was played in February, and here he is saying almost a year out, I don't think we're going to have any football this year. I'm like, but he's just the opposite of Rob. Did you hear what Rob said? He goes, well, I'm an optimist. I'm even hanging on to June 1st. And, of course, he has no idea, right? My prediction is August 1st. It might be somewhere in between. I don't think there's any chance that the NFL, I guess this could get much worse. And I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen here? But, man, this is a long way off. September 1st, right around then, is when college football starts. About a week after is when the NFL starts. I can't imagine why on earth you would say something. It's much better to say, I don't know, I think we might start a couple weeks late, but to say we're not going to have any football this year, and on top of it, talk about bumming people out.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody, all sports fans right now are doing is hoping to get back to normalcy and turn on the TV and see a live football game, a live hockey game, a live basketball game. And here's Herbstreit, clearly one of the great inside information guys, great commentators in the world of college football. He's fantastic. And he's like, stay tuned, folks. No football for 5 years. And, of course, that's not what he said. I'm exaggerating what he said. But, boy, don't disappoint these people more than they need to be. Just say, let's just keep this. I don't know. Let's just see what happens. So, anyway, I was really surprised that he said that. And, folks, don't listen to him. I think very much that come September 1st, they're at least going to be in training camp, and maybe the delay of both football seasons, both NFL and college, maybe delayed by just 2 weeks. We'll see.
Let's hope so.
I think that's going to happen, brother. I think it's going to happen for sure. All right, folks, let's do some concluding stuff here. I always like to quote Pope Francis and what he says about sports, and this is one of the things he said. The beauty and joy found in sports, whether playing or watching, is something that benefits and unites everyone, regardless of religion, ethnic group, nationality, or disability. Before we go, I want to say a special thanks to our boy Chris Pressler, the producer and co-host of the show.
Thank you.
Carlos Herrera, my friend up in Northern Virginia, and to the general manager of the Charlotte Knights, Rob Egan, for joining me on the show today. I'm Dr. John Acquaviva. Please join us next time here on Carolina Catholic Radio for Faith in Sport and St. Sebastian, patron saint of athletes. pray for us.
That's right. And we also want to remind you again that you've got several ways to catch up on your Faith in Sport. If you want to catch an encore presentation of Faith in Sport on the Carolina Catholic Radio Network at carolinacatholicradio.org, and also on the app. You can check out the program guide tab on the app and the website, and you can see all of our encore broadcast times for Faith and Sport. So make sure that you check that out. And we'll meet you back here next Monday afternoon from 2 to 3 for more Faith and Sport live here on Carolina Catholic Radio Charlotte.
Hello, God's beloved. I'm Annabelle Mosley, author, professor of theology, and host of Then Sings My Soul and Destination Sainthood on WCAT Radio. I invite you to listen in and find inspiration along this sacred journey we're traveling together to make our lives a masterpiece and, with God's grace, become saints. Join me, Annabelle Mosley, for Then Sings My Soul and Destination Sainthood on WCAT Radio. God bless you. Remember, you're never alone. God is always with you.
We hope you enjoyed the program and will join us back for another show on WCAT Radio. This is Sebastian Mahfood. Good day.